also have Xavier. And Xavier is, the key highlight should be on Xavier itself, because he's, I guarantee all of you that you've been very impressed and you learn a lot of things. For Lam, I think maybe you've known a lot about him. Probably you will also know tonight, hopefully you know something that you didn't know about him. Okay? And for the rest, okay, we're going to share, basically, what, as I mentioned, we're going to share on two segments of it. One is on about his journey, and the first part is about social currency. Now, the reason why we actually crafted it this way is because I think for some of you here, social currency is actually basically, you are totally clueless about what it is. And this is a topic that I have actually developed because I have constantly been asked, what in the world how does social media why is there virals, and how does it go viral and things like that. But okay, now the second disclaimer here is that because of a time constraint, I will not be covering every segment of the 6 social currency, which is the 6 steps of it. Okay, I'll only be sharing 2, and I'll share a little bit about the platforms that you can use, and then after which Xavier will take on. Okay, so a little bit about myself. Okay, I just crafted this. My name is Vivian, as all of you know. I'm actually a digital event experience strategist. Okay, for all those people who are very much better than I am, my scope of work is only moving. I only handle more on the customer journey mapping element of it. So I've been actually, how I started this journey is basically I was actually, when I first started, I was an event person. Okay, for the last of 30 years of my experience, I handled events, and I actually handled some of my milestones are basically I manage events as big as 200,000. Until today, I still could remember it. And then basically, when 2015 or 10 onwards, I've actually been running a lot of digital projects around Asia and the world for my clients. And in 2017, a little bit of branding. Okay, I didn't know, but I never. A lot of people don't know, but I was actually given the title recognized as one of the world's top 4 event professionals. This is actually a recognition from US. And I'm honored, but yeah, hi, thank you for coming. Okay, so never mind, you didn't miss anything. I was just trying to tell, I was sharing it with them who I am, okay? Because it's a little bit more, you can, okay. Now, social media is here, like it or not. Okay, it's actually not going away, but actually it's a passing phase. So be where your customers are in, and it's always it's going to be in the social media. So before I start, I'm sure all of you have your handphone, okay? And I'd like to do a poll, okay? And the poll basically, hi, Mrs. Gilbert, yeah. This is the PIN number, okay? You guys we're gonna ask you some questions, and it's also for the benefit of Xavier, because that will give you a better idea of who his customers are or who his audience are, let's say. Okay? So all you need to do is you go into this website, live.voxvote.com, and this is the PIN number. Can you get it?
Yeah.
You ask questions and it's like you basically pose.
The guest Wi-Fi. Yeah. So welcome, the W is a capital W, to capital T, and W capital A.
I'm not very good.
Can all of you see that questions?
Yes. Oh, is it?
Can you? Basically, you will see questions like, are you a business owner, an employee, or a student? So from there, once you start to do your vote, you'll be able to see. We'll be able to see your answers in a short while. Okay. So we see from the vote that, wow, you have somebody, I hope it's not for Xavier. Huh?
Yeah, he's a guru.
The guru just claimed he's a guru. Intermediate, we have about 16%, so I reckon we have quite a handful of people, and 50% says I'm a basic, means I'm basic. Okay, and oh, we have 16% zero knowledge of social media. Okay, now we're going to go on to the second question. Have you heard of social currency?
You went to the website, right?
It's not come up.
Oh, it's still on question 2.
Viviana, how do you even go to the PIN? So
721.
So go to live, right?
Yeah. Then you go to 72118.
Hold on, there are some people need help. Wait.
Okay.
How do you key this?
Now you can, all of you should be able to answer question 3 already. When you got it already. Oh, that's fast. Okay, let's see the results. There was the question.
Because it start already, so yeah, you have to wait for it to finish and you can go in. Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Okay. 5 people says that they understand, they've heard of social currency, while 60% of the people do not know, have not heard of social currency. So that means to say, with this vote, it gives us an idea that social currency is something that a lot of companies and a lot of individuals are still not aware of the potential benefits. Okay. Do not move. all of us. Okay, now what is social currency? Can anyone tell me? No. Okay, so what is social currency? Let me share with you. Social currency is not Bitcoin, okay? It is another Bitcoin, okay, because a lot of times I get people confusing social currency for cryptocurrency. So they said, wow, so how can I make money out of social currency? How am I going to make money out of, and how, investments? And I told them, social currency is not, cryptocurrency. It has got nothing to do with that. Social currency is actually all the social media handles that every one of us own. And how are we going to leverage on it and make maximum full use of it to actually become our assets? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little video.
The excitement of the city starts here, because when you book a flight and hotel together, you can see.
Yes, right. I'm going to play for you a video that will give you a holistic view of what social currency is all about.
So there's a place in Philly called Barclay Prime,
And this is
their
actually
cheesesteak costs
designed by a guy
$100.
called Professor
Now, the average
Jonah
cheesesteak
Berger.
costs about $5, but Barclay Prime has been really successful. And of course, there are many factors as to why, but one of the factors is social currency. And the idea with social currency is that people share whatever makes them look good. So if anything makes you look good or smart or cool, you're much more likely to share it. So let's say you're in Philly and you get a regular cheesesteak for $5. That's probably not something that you're going to want to tell everyone about. But imagine if you go out for dinner and get the $100 cheesesteak. That's probably something that you're going to tell all your friends about. And if you're like most people and can't enjoy good things without posting a picture of it on Facebook or Instagram, you're probably going to share a picture of the cheesesteak as well, just to show us that you're still really cool and you eat really expensive things. So the first principle is social currency. And the idea here is, if sharing your idea or product makes someone look good, they're much more likely to share it. And there are also 5 other principles that Jonah Berger has identified for why things catch on and why they go viral. And he has a PhD from Stanford, he teaches at Wharton, and he's basically an expert on viral marketing. And after all his research, he's identified these 6 factors that he calls steps. So moving on to factor number 2, triggers. How are you reminded of the idea or the product? So you've probably seen the song Friday by Rebecca Black, which has millions of views on YouTube. And again, there are many reasons for why it got so many views, but one reason is that it has a really good trigger. So if you actually take a look at the stats on YouTube of how people watch that video, you'll see a spike in views every Friday. Now imagine if the song was about the first day of school or something like that. Same amazing lyrics, same amazing vocals, same everything. A lot of people might still watch it on the first day of school, but people probably aren't going to watch it 2 weeks after the first day of school, or a month, or 3 months after. So Friday is actually a really good trigger because it happens every week. And Kit Kat did the same thing in 2007. Their sales were declining every year, and they needed an effective marketing campaign. And what they did was they decided to link Kit Kat to coffee. So in all of their advertisements, Kit Kat was always presented with coffee. Now, to someone who doesn't understand the power of triggers, the coffee might not mean anything. It's just part of the advertisement. They had to put something in there, so they just put coffee in there. In fact, why don't we advertise it with hot chocolate? It might taste even better with hot chocolate. But that's not the point. The point is that we want to link Kit Kat to something that gets consumed all the time, like coffee. So every time a person thinks of coffee, he also thinks of Kit Kat. And yes, it might taste even better with hot chocolate, but again, that's not the point. People don't drink as much hot chocolate as coffee. And KitKat sales have been declining 5% every year, but in the next 12 months after the campaign, its sales actually were up by a third. So the second principle is triggers, and the idea here is people need to be reminded of your idea or product, and you can help them by providing a strong trigger. The third principle is emotion. When people feel strong emotions, they want to share. So think of Susan Boyle's performance on Britain's Got Talent. Strong emotions like awe or happiness get people to share. Even strong emotions that aren't positive, like anger and anxiety, get people to share. And this is really what the media relies on now. The angrier and more anxious they make us, the more we share. So strong emotions are good, but the emotion you want to stay away from is sadness. People don't really like to share something if it makes them sad. The fourth principle is public, or what's usually known as social proof. And the idea here is that our decisions are affected by what everyone else around us is doing. So if you actually take a look at car buying behavior, one of the factors that affects whether someone will buy a new car or not is whether his neighbors and community are buying new cars. And if they're all buying a new car, he's much more likely to buy a new car as well. And Apple had this dilemma with their laptops. The Apple logo actually used to face the owner of the laptop when it was closed. And that was a convenience for the user because it was easier to orient the computer once you got it out of your bag. But the problem is that once the laptop was opened, the logo was upside down to everyone else in the coffee shop or wherever you were. So a decision had to be made whether the owner's convenience was more important than everyone else looking at the laptop. And they actually decided that the public image was more important. So the fourth principle is public. And the idea here is, can people see when others are using our product? The fifth principle is practical value. If you can actually offer someone something that really helps them, they're going to want to share it with the people they know. So one of the shortest, easiest videos I've ever made was a 2-minute video about my new favorite way to read. And there were so many people who liked that video, and it's been shared so many times. And the reason for that is because if you use that method, you could actually read this book in only 3 hours. Now, a lot of people take weeks to read one book. So if someone shares with you a way where you can read a book in 3 hours instead of 3 weeks, there's practical value in it. And if you know someone who wants to read more and has been struggling with it, of course you'd share it with them. So the fifth principle is practical value. Anytime you can actually help people and make their life better, they're going to want to share it and help their friends and family as well. And finally, the sixth principle, stories. So in 2004 in the Olympics, this guy snuck into the diving area and belly flopped into the pool. And he also had the name of a casino written across his chest. Now, that's a great story, and it got covered and people talked about it, but the story has nothing to do with the casino. You can tell that story without saying anything about the casino, so it wasn't really the most effective advertisement. On the other hand, some companies do this much better. So Blendtec is a blender company that makes a video series called Will It Blend? And they make videos where they'll put weird things like a brand new iPhone into their blender and blend it into powder. Now, that's a cool story. If you saw that, you might want to share it with your friends. But notice how the product is an integral part of that story. You can't tell that story without the blender. And especially technically oriented people have a really hard time understanding that most people don't talk about weird specs and details. They share stories. When you hang out with your friends, you're probably not going to tell them about how there's a new blender with improved revolutions per minute on its blades. But you might share the story of how you saw the new iPhone get blended into powder. So the sixth principle is stories. Most people don't care about specs and details. They share stories. What you have to figure out is how your product or idea can be a relevant part of a cool story. And your product or idea doesn't have to have all of these 6 principles. Some of these might not even be very applicable to certain products and ideas. So obviously the more the better, but there are plenty of products or ideas that have a couple of these factors that are very strong and they do really well. So to recap the steps again, social currency. Does sharing the product or idea make you look good? Triggers. How are you reminded of the idea or the product? Is there a good trigger? Emotion. When people feel strong emotions, they want to share. Public. Can people see when others are using our product? Practical value. Is your idea or product actually useful or helpful? And finally, stories. People communicate through stories. What you have to figure out is how your product or idea can be a relevant part of a cool story.
Well, with this 3 minutes video, it sums up what social currency is all about. Now, if you notice, social currency is actually something that it works every day in our life. However, many of us actually do not know how to actually use social currency to our benefit. Instead, well, we do every day. I post on Instagram. I like to eat. I post. I like to take photographs with our celebrity friends. I post. Okay. Sometimes, some things triggers, and like I said, it poses. People pose on our benefit. Okay. As Jordan Berger mentioned, people will always share things that makes them look good. For example, like I said, well, if you are with a celebrity, it looks good on you. You like everybody to know, hey, I was with a celebrity, Or you are in school and you want to know how to, you want people to look good about what you do. Achievement is one thing that you actually share, as one of the parts of your social currency. And the best thing of all is a zero-cost marketing. When I mean zero cost, I mean you don't have to pay money. People are paying you to do it. People are paying you. They are paying and helping you to do things for you without it costing. Trigger, contextual between things, okay, and of course emotions. Well, in Singapore, I think in terms of social currency, emotions is probably like almost everything. Okay, every day you see a lot of different things from scolding the government to talking about stuff. And later I'll show you some examples of even some of the Singaporeans who've done it and got a viral show view of almost 1 million. And instead, it was all his a little thing that he wanted to do. Apparently it's a friend of mine. And at the end of the day, he also made money from YouTube because people are actually just viraling, showing the thing for him. Because public singing and practical values. Okay, simple things like practical value. For example, you are in the line of health product, and you want to share with people why your product is good for diabetic or for want to lose weight, and that's where people want to go. White paper for school, bite size, French espresso. It's something that will go viral. It's something that people would think, hey, I'll learn. And then at the end of the day, we just put for more, come to this school. That's all. It's people who need to know something that you know. Then of course, stories. Okay. I've seen some good ones. I've also stories actually. In fact, among all the part of social currency is basically one of the toughest because sometimes we write the wrong stories, and instead of getting good reviews, you get bad reviews, and your virus is on the opposite sides because people will then write a lot of bad, hey, that sort of thing, and then at the end of the day you get bad publicity for no reasons. Okay, but if you've done it well, it will bring you a lot of free advertisement. So like I said, okay, I'm going to go a little bit more about trigger because this is actually, I've really summed a lot of things about it. Okay, okay, triggers, apart from posting pictures, this is okay. This is one. Okay, Mimic actually is a friend of mine. Yeah, he has got his name called Limpe. He's so lame. His name is Anthony, but he calls himself Limpe. Limpe in Hokkien is my father. But his site has 60,000 fans. Okay, all because he acts lame. Okay, and each time he posts, and this has resulted in him setting up a business, okay, called MediaCorp. Okay, not media, because he cannot call MediaCorp, because if he calls MediaCorp, MediaCorp will come after him. So he decided to be a little bit more arcane. He calls MediaCorp. Okay, it's so very but MediaCorp has actually brought him tons of business because he does a lot of things on local daily life things that everyone actually faces. One of his most popular one was when he first started was Valentine's Day. So at that time, Valentine's Day, people, every time Valentine's Day is about flowers. But what Limpe did was he actually put cauliflowers as a picture. And his cauliflower bouquet actually brought him business. Okay, people thought it was cool. They say, Limpe, I want to buy I want to order, and he suddenly think, what strike as a joke turned out into a business because people thought having a cauliflower bouquet was more cool than the normal rose bouquet. Okay, and that's how it struck ended. And he says, so he had a little bit of issue because he had no intention and he doesn't know how to make a cauliflower bouquet. So what he did was quickly change his strategy and he put cake instead. He says, oh, cake is better. And he helped his client had an order, which usually, for Valentine's Day, they never got that. Almost like 40 over cakes within 2 days, just by just a simple viral. So viral, if you know how to put out the right thing, okay, it can actually helps you a lot. I'm sure all of you have actually seen this ad where people were just discussing all day long about gold, about this color not gold, this color is not yellow, this is not blue, So, and that itself for just a simple thing, move. Okay. Then we move on to emotion. Okay. When I mentioned about emotion and back, okay, this is my ex-colleague. Okay, there was a time, a year past, when everybody, the talk of the town in Singapore was about the Terex military vehicles being taken away by, got stuck in Hong Kong, right? Yeah, and couldn't come back. Every day, everybody's talking about it. So, Alvin is actually a songwriter. Okay, he loves writing songs, and he decided to write a song about this Terex. All he did was just to write a song, and his intention was to tell the whole world, in a very much more mean way, to say, hey, China, please return back my car, our Terex, why do you take back, and all things like that. He then expected this view to be spread out, and as at last year, he already had about 400 over views. So, just a post, he has always been posting a lot of things from his songs and things like that. Nothing beats this little one about Terex, and he got money from there. He never made money from YouTube. One view, one post, he made money out of it. I'm sure all of you seen this challenge, okay, where around the world, it started with America, and then they started challenging Facebook, and Facebook challenged Microsoft, everybody start challenging everybody, and then see, even in Singapore, every part of the world, people were just doing the bucket challenge. And it all started with just a post. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to share, okay, of course, like I mentioned, the video has actually shown you that social currency is 6 steps. Okay, there are actually 6 steps to it, but for any business to trigger it, you don't need to use the 6 steps. You just need to use any one step that you feel comfortable, okay, and you just do it, okay. But that's beside the point. The point is, in business, we have to find what we are going to do it for. What's the purpose? We don't do something for the sake. For example, your main intention is to get lead generation. Of course, you want to do some posts that will garner leads to come back, and not, or if you want to create good publicity, bad publicity, of course, no one wants to create bad publicity, that's for sure. Then you have to talk about something that will create something. For us, like for example, today, both of us came here, both of us are here with one simple intention. Okay, our intention is to create brand awareness. We just want to let the whole world know who we are, and that's about it. We do not have any lead generation or things like that, but we just basically want to share. Xavier has got his mission, and he's going to share it later, okay? And I'm going to just, okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to find your audience. But before that, I would like to give you a little framework of a slide, show you a slide of which platform in Singapore. This is for Singapore. Every year,